Good morning, traders. Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. It is a beautiful sunny morning here in New York City. My name is Charles. Oh boy. Welcome. Happy. And I founded a company called Piratetraders. We're a community for traders. And I am here hanging out with you today on the Bookmap channel to talk about the ES, the NQ, and how it moves through the two-way auction process. My focus in trading is in understanding who the buyers and sellers are on a minute-by-minute basis throughout the day. So that is my analysis, that is what I focus on, and that is what I want to help you understand. So let's start by zooming out and getting kind of a bigger picture, understanding of what's happening with the market. Both the ES and the NQ are dancing right on top of what we call a balance area high. So how do we get here and why is it important? Well, let's start zooming out all the way to the monthly chart and we'll just get some perspective of what's happening on the monthly. I don't know what that is. Goodbye. Okay, so on the monthly chart, we can very clearly see what the market is doing. Right? The market had a lot of momentum. It pushed up. It created new all-time highs. Then we pulled back as a form of balance, spent some time going sideways, broke out of that, and we are now on our way back up. Okay, it's not dissimilar to a period like this. Market had a lot of excess, had to spend some time balancing. Once we finally broke out, we came back and back tested it, and then it was just straight to the moon, right? So overall in the monthly, things look pretty bullish. We could assume that with this much balance, the market should get excess for longer than just 2 months, right? After spending over a year balancing, we should be able to get momentum for more than 2 months. But generally, the way the market works when it's in balance, once it breaks out and gets that excess, it's about the range of the balance. So again, just looking at this on the monthly, that should get us back up towards all-time highs, okay? What happens beyond there, we will just have to wait and see. But for now, if this excess can continue, as crazy as it might seem, it could take us to all-time highs. All right, well, that's an interesting idea. Let's see if we can get some more information. Let's zoom in to the weekly. Well, when we look at it on the weekly, where the candlesticks just give us a little more data, a little more information, suddenly we realize something, that the last time we were up in this area, we ran out of momentum and started heading back down. Look at these wicks right here. Look at these wicks right here. Okay, so on the way up, this was resistance. Then on the way down, it acted as resistance once again. So if there were sellers here and they stepped in here again and they stepped in here again, it would not be unreasonable to believe they'll be waiting to step in right now. So on the weekly, whilst we have the excess, it's looking like that excess may come to an end somewhere around the 47 to 4,800 area. Okay, that's just a piece of data. Let's carry it forward. Let's zoom into the daily. Well, now things get interesting when we look at it on the daily. Again, just talking about buyers and sellers, just talking about balance and excess. Is there more buyers? Is there more sellers? Are they taking the market sideways or are they taking the market in a certain direction? Well, we had momentum. We then balanced that momentum off. We then had momentum again. We then balanced that momentum off. And so now we find ourselves right at that balance area high, right at that area where for the last, week and a half, the market has been going sideways. And because it's at the balance area high, it looks like it wants to try to go higher. It wants to get that next move of excess. So what are we looking for? Well, we're looking to see, can we get above the balance area high and can we stay there? So now we'll zoom in and we'll look a little closer using the market profile chart. The reason I use the market profile chart is because it shows me the information, the same information as the candlestick, right? It just shows it to me in 3 dimensions. That candlestick can only show me where price traveled on that day. So where did it open? Where did it close? What was the high of the day and what was the low of the day? And then it can just show me the overall volume that traded on that day. And that's great. That's important information. But there is so much more to be gleaned if I can look at the market in 3 dimensions. If I can see where was the buying and selling? Where did the volume come in? How much time did we spend in different areas? That gives me a lot more information. It looks like I didn't save on Friday. Okay, so Friday's trade basically just rotated on. Oh, I just deleted the balance area high. Oh no. Oh no. There it is. Okay, so this area here around 46.06 is the balance area high. We know because that's where the market ran out of steam here, ran out of steam here, ran out of steam here. Okay, so the market kept running out of momentum right at an exact level. That is the balance area high. Same thing for the balance area low down at 45.60, right? We know that's the balance area low because they ran out of momentum here and here. Okay. So last week, the market tried to break out of balance. We had this massive gap up. The market rotated around above that balance area high, and it tried to hold, but it failed, and it pulled back into the balance area. That triggered something that we call a look above and fail of a balance area. The basic idea is if you don't have enough buyers up here to take the market higher, you got to put the market on sale. Right? Like a store putting, merchandise on sale because they've got too much inventory and they got to get rid of it. The market just decides, all right, this isn't a good enough price to bring in the buyers to keep going, so we got to put it on sale. So we had this massive liquidation that took the market lower last Thursday. But where did they instantly run out of steam? Dun, 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 right on that balance area low, right in that same place where they ran out of momentum before. So that told us that the highest probability was that this was going to become a look below and fail. Just like the look above and fail brought us back down to the balance area low, the look below and fail brought us back up to the balance area high. So then what we do on Friday? Well, we pushed up there and we spent the whole day just basically rotating around on top of that balance area, right? Just debating, playing tug of war. Who's it going to be? The buyers or the sellers? Who's going to win? Come on. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And then we close literally right at that balance area high. So now that we're going to open above, we've got a little bit of momentum to the upside. So that increases the odds that maybe Friday brought in enough buyers to keep it going. Maybe now we can continue that momentum up. We didn't have enough on Thursday, but we may just have brought in enough on Friday. So the first order of business this morning is going to be the overnight inventory. Because the overnight for the weekend started down here at around 46.06, and it looks like we are going to open this morning somewhere up here around 46.15. We know that the overnight inventory is net long. What does that basically mean? It means a majority of the participants over the weekend were buyers. Okay? What do those buyers want to see when the market opens in New York? They want to see momentum. They want to see that market keep going so that they can make money. Well, what happens if we don't get that momentum? What happens if, for example, we just poke up to Friday's high and then run out of steam and pull back in? Or we just poke up to the overnight high and run out of steam and start to pull in? Well, then all those buyers from the overnight range will want to take profits. They'll want to get out of their longs as quickly as possible and lock in whatever gains they can. So for now, it's a sign of momentum, right? For now, it's a sign the market wants to keep going higher. But as soon as the market opens, we are looking for signals that that momentum is coming to an end. Because once it does, we know that overnight inventory needs to pull back in. Now, that being said, Knowing that this area here, and it's not an exact number, but just knowing this area around 4606 is a balance area high, this is the area that those buyers should defend. So if the market starts to pull back in and we turn these nodes into support in here, basically anywhere above 4600, that would be extremely bullish to me for continuation to the upside. Okay, so the next target would be testing the overnight high and then monitoring to head up and repair 4625 week references. I believe the highest probability is that the market will go higher today because of the overnight inventory. Second to that the market just goes sideways. Sometimes we have to spend days and days and days just grinding on these balance area highs before we finally have enough momentum. So the second highest probability in my mind today is just going sideways with a day that looks very similar to Friday. And then the least likely possibility, but still potentially there, would be another look above and fail. Essentially the same thing that happened on Thursday could happen again. The market pulls back in and it can't turn these nodes into support, and it starts to spend time back inside the balance area. Well, then guess what that means? We're heading back down to that balance area low. So we are in a position to be cautious because really anything could happen here. We could go sideways, we could go higher, we could go lower. But to me, the highest probability is that we're going to go higher. Now, I would not FOMO into a trade first thing in the morning. I would need to see confirmation that we have that support, because we may just grind on the balance area high. We may just go nowhere. So I want to be absolutely certain that I'm seeing those buyers, I'm seeing that momentum, and then I know I can take those long trades. Once the market starts pushing higher, okay, we begin the process of what we call monitoring for continuation. So that is to say, we don't just assume the market's going to run out of steam right here, or the market's going to run out of steam right here, or the market's going to run out of steam up here, right? We just see how far it can go. We look for, can we get to the overnight high? If we get there, do we find buyers? Well, then we can keep going to the first week reference. Then when we get to the first week reference, we see, is that all we had to do? Repair that and then we come back down? Or do we repair that week reference and keep getting buyers? In which case we target the next week reference. Same thing there. Same thing again at Thursday's high. And then we just keep it going. When you break out of balance, it will shock you how far they can push it. I have a feeling there's a few people in this room that were shocked when Thursday went straight from 4606 down to 4561. You were shocked. You were like, how can it go that far, that fast? I wasn't shocked. I just understand how the market participates in these certain areas. And that tells me that that was the highest probability thing to happen. Now, I didn't know it was going to happen instantly, but I just knew that was the highest probability. In that same regard, I'm telling you now, the highest probability is continuation to the upside. And it will shock you how far they could push it if they can keep that momentum going. If all these overnight traders who went long in here have no reason to take profit this morning, if we immediately push up and keep going, well, they're going to stay in the trade, and we'll just convince more day traders in the American market to just keep getting in. And that market will keep going. So now we have a plan. We're going to look for signs of momentum and then trade with the momentum. If that momentum ends, we're going to wait for a pullback and look for support. If we see support, we're going to look to get long for continuation. And if that support fails, if these nodes right here, I would just, to keep it simple, we'll just say 4,600. It's more like 4,597, but we'll just call it 4,600. As long as they stay above there, they're either going sideways or higher today. And only if that breaks am I considering it a look above and fail, in which case I will get bearish very, very quickly. Any questions for me? Is there no comments at all today? Somebody say hello so I know my computer's working. Frito in the house. Good to see you. Scott is here. Hello to you. Test. Thank you. That's the first time I've ever looked over at the chat 15 minutes into a stream and there's nothing. Just nothing. Speaking of nothing, only 17 likes. We got 52 people hanging out. Come on. Get after that thumbs up button. Cali Meds for Combat Vets, good morning to you. Yuri, good morning to you. Alyssa. Ronaldo. Jono. Armando, good to see you. Scott says, I put that red line of liquidity on Bookmap for you to talk about. Is that you, Scott? That's awfully big size you got there, Scott. Yeah, that's nothing exciting to me right now. That's likely just the magnet that the overnight traders are trying to use to take profits. So they just put some volume up there. Sorry, some liquidity up there. So that, traders have something to look at as a place to take profits. Right now, there's really not much to do but wait for the open. That's where we get the new information. Tom says, I like that 46.20 level. I'm sure you already talked about it, though. 46.20. What do you like it for? Are you talking about that node? It means nothing to me right now. So at this moment, Charles's brain is only asking himself one simple question. When the market opens, does the market push up above Friday's high? If so, can it get above the overnight high? That's question number one. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. That would be a sign this momentum from the overnight is still going. And so that's the only thing I'm worried about. Can we push up above there or can we push up above there? Once we do, what happens there? By the time we push up above that overnight high and come back down and start building support, this liquidity will have disappeared and reappeared and a million things will have happened to it by then. So I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm more focused on the momentum. Can they get above Friday's high? And then we'll see what starts happening with the liquidity once we get there, because that's where hearts and minds start to change, folks. When traders start to see we're pushing above Friday's high, they're going to get bullish. They're going to want to get long. Okay? So how many of them are there? Is it just a tiny little group, or does a lot of people start getting long? And it's the same thing with those overnight traders. Do they just stay in their long trades looking to get much higher, or do they take profits right away? So that's the information we need. And the liquidity will be all over the place in between now and then. Jono says, have we talked about the NQ? We have not. The NQ, ironically, is also sitting right on its balance area high. It's the exact same thing as the ES. Okay? So it's the same thing. On Thursday, they tried to go higher, couldn't do it, went back down to the opposite end, found support, came right back up to the opposite end, and then we spent all day on Friday balancing near the balance area high, which just makes perfect sense. So the overnight inventory is not quite as bullish on the NQ as the ES. I would describe this as more neutral, right? Because we closed right here and we're opening right here. So it's like half the participants were long, half the participants were short. So we have a little less information to work with here on the NQ than we do on the ES, but we'll just stay laser focused on support. So this area right here, around 15,810, should act as support to hold the market up. If the buyers are going to step in and get us back above that balance area high, that's where they should step in, either there or right where we're opening at 15,850. So it's a very similar idea that I'm looking for that momentum to continue to get above Friday's high and then get above the overnight high. But it's a little less likely because they're more neutral. So they may need to go sideways for a few minutes before they're ready to go. Whereas the ES could, right at the opening bell, start making its move. So let's see what happens. I would also say if the NQ breaks the overnight low, so if the NQ breaks, 15,790, that would become a look above and fail of the balance area and would get very bearish very quick. Okay? So they really need to hold this overnight range if they want to either go sideways or higher today. Eight minutes to the open. Scott says, the SPY is looking like a small gap up. When do you trade the gap fill versus the gap being so small? You don't worry about it. So we're getting into kind of like, I got to tread lightly here. So there is a big difference between trading the SPY and trading the futures. They kind of move, while it's technically they're connected to one another through arbitrage, they kind of move a little bit differently. So I will speak about trading futures since that's where my expertise is. But regardless of the size of the gap, okay, it is always the higher probability that the market will at least try to fill the gap. So anytime I see a gap, my first assumption is that the market, if it's a gap up, my first assumption is that the market's going to go down to fill that gap, regardless of the size. And then whether or not I'm willing to get in a trade all depends on how quickly the market is moving and the sort of morning that I'm getting. I thought I had SPY on here. There we go. Yeah, I mean, right now, that's not even really a gap. They're sitting right on yesterday's high. But let's just say, hypothetically, they opened a little bit higher. They opened up here. The first thing it's probably going to do is go fill the gap. But I wouldn't just automatically short for that because we may get a gap and go. It may open and go boop, 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 and then just take off. So I don't want to be in a short until I know what's happening. Right? But the first order of business is always to at least try to fill the gap. Now, if they can't, if they try to fill the gap and they don't get to yesterday's high, well, that's very important information that we have a gap and go, a sign of momentum, right? So I don't need to be in the gap fill trade every time. If I don't have a clear reason to get in, then I just wait for the next piece of information, which is oh, we couldn't get a gap fill. So we're going to get a gap and go. Or it fills the gap, it gets to the previous day's high, and then it finds support. Okay, great. I want to be long for a gap and go. So if there's not really an opportunity to jump into a gap fill, it doesn't mean that I'm not watching and paying attention for the next thing. Scott says, meaning gap too small for risk reward. No, you can always manage your risk. So you could just say, let's say the market was opening with a gap up right now. Let's say the market opened right here. And in the first minute, it goes like this. And then in the second minute, it goes like this. I can get short right there with a stop right there and target that gap fill. And that's better than 2-to-1 risk reward. I just have to trade with a really tight stop. That's all. And I would... Again, this is a skill thing of watching it and knowing. That's how I wait to decide, should I get in the gap fill or not? Is where would I have to put my stop? What's the trade going to be? But it only takes, oftentimes, for a gap fill trade, it literally only takes me 30 seconds to a minute to make a decision and get in the trade. That's what it is. You instantly get in. And then the real bitch of it is you get in, the market starts to fill the gap, it comes up, it takes out your stop, then it comes back down through the opening again. Guess what? You got to get in again. Like you got to be able to trade very quick if you want to trade the gap fill right away at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with just saying, I'll step back, let them fill the gap, then I'll look for more information for the next trade where I can have better risk reward. Jonathan, good morning to you. Dylan says, do you ever trade the overnight market? No, I do not. I have just learned I got to be done at the end of the day and come back the next day. There are always just as many opportunities. Let's literally just look at the last few days. Okay? How much money could you have made if you perfectly traded this range here? Could have made just as much trading this range. How much could you have made if you perfectly traded this range here? Could have made just as much if you traded this range. How much could you have made if you traded this range here? Could have made just as much if you traded this range. So it's like the opportunities are the same. It's just which market do you want to trade? Do you want to trade in the overnight or in the regular trading hours? Overnight has a lot more predictable moves that last a lot longer. Their trends tend to last, much longer, but it moves so slow. Whereas the regular trading hours is a lot faster, and you just get signals that are a lot clearer. But then that momentum can instantly change as well. So pick your poison. Three minutes to open. Everyone's getting excited, thinking about making money. Scott says, today really just looking for a failure of the balance area high, and it won't matter about the gap. Exactly. I love that. There's whatever happens with the balance area. Okay, whether we find support here today and try to take the market higher, or we fail and head back down to the balance area low, both of those will present excellent opportunities. So no need to feel like I got to jump into the first trade, the first second. Like I'm telling you, there could be some serious movement here, whether we find support for continuation or we fail and head back down. So that is a great insight. Jonathan says, is that balance area from Friday correct? So Friday's range was balance, but that's just for the day. It's what we call a bell-shaped curve. So it just means they spent most of the time and brought in most of the volume towards the middle of the range rather than out on the edges. But it's where it was balancing that mattered, which was right on that balance area high. How did I get that number? From looking at where the market ran out of steam on the previous visits, right? Ran out of steam there, ran out of steam there, ran out of steam there. That's my balance area high. And also the failure, the fact that as soon as we pulled back in, we head to the other end, further confirmation. That's the balance area. Okay, so the market is open. Let's see what happens with the momentum. First question is, can they get to yesterday's high? Or do they need to pull back down and test the support? So right now, this is just a chop zone. We don't know what's coming next. But based on what happens, we will get more information. So this is that balance area. They can chop and chop and chop and grind and grind and grind and drive us absolutely nuts. But if they get above, call it 16, they're likely to test yesterday's high, and that could bring in those new buyers. And if they get below 4,600, that'll bring in new sellers. But in between, we must just watch and wait, looking for signs of momentum. Looking for momentum in the ES. Looking for momentum when the buyers take control. So both markets leaving behind weak lows, increasing the odds. We need to chop a little bit. So don't get overly bullish overly fast. All right, Bookmap's telling us they just chewed up some stops. Somebody was shorting at the open, and they just got bit. We got 108 people hanging out, 36 likes. If you likey what you heary, please push that thumbs up. Appreciate you. Okay, so the first move to the upside was just short covering. You see that large volume dot right there? That was sellers. They got stopped out. So that first move was not a sign of momentum. Not yet. We need to confirm support here. So we have a weak low because it only had 31 contracts trade. So we're pretty sure we're going to pass back through that low. Same thing on the NQ because it's the opening. Oh, they already did. So now we're looking to see where can the market find support. Can they hold this range? If so, then we'll get the momentum, but we don't have it yet. Right now it's chop, baby. Scott says, did you say NQ? Did I cover NQ already? I did. They're both just in a chop zone right now. NQ is good. I mean, nope, another week low. So we're just waiting for support. I will definitely say it when I see it. Otherwise, up and down, up and down, up and down until they find good solid support. In my opinion, neither market has found it yet. Hello, Scuball and RK. Welcome. Chai PMI in 10. Is that China PMI? Couldn't put those 2 extra letters at the end? Cali Med says new prediction. Oh, Chicago. Even worse. New prediction? No new prediction, right? I got to have more information. So what was the first question I was looking for right at the open? The first question I was looking for was, could we push up above yesterday's high? That would have been a sign the overnight traders were staying in their longs and new traders were stepping in, but we couldn't do it. And we knew we couldn't do it because we left behind this low volume low. Okay. So now I just need to wait for the next thing. The next thing is solid support. Good, strong support that holds, makes a good low. Then I can get more bullish. But for now, I'm just going to watch it chop and wait for more information. Also, the NQ left a weak high because they stopped right at Friday's high. So when you have weakness on both sides of the market like that, you have a low volume low and a weak high. That's a higher probability. You're going to go up and then come back down and then go down and come back up and just keep chopping. So you really want to wait until you have certainty. I mean, unless you're a scalper. In which case, have fun. But if you're looking for a day trade, we need more information. Another sign of chop is when you kind of crash down the Bookmap like this. You kind of smush it all together. If you have about the same amount of liquidity above and below, again, another sign you're likely to get chop. If there was clearly a lot more above or clearly a lot more below, you could look for that to become a magnet. But right now, there's as many buyers as sellers in this market, and they got to play tug of war to figure out who's going to win. David says NQ is over 7 days balance. Does that mean bullish? By my reading, it is not over it. It is right on it. So no, it's not bullish yet. But if they can get above yesterday's high and we find buyers there, not poke up above and come back down, which right now is what it's saying it's going to do, right? If it can get up there and find the new buyers, then we are bullish merely to test the overnight high. That's it. Just to see, can we get there? Same thing there. Does it just poke above and come back down, or do they find the new buyers? Only if we find the new buyers up there will we know we've broken out of balance, right? Because we may spend the whole day just chopping right on this balance area high. So just be patient, guys. Wait for the information. If the market's going to go 150 points higher today, it will first push above the overnight high and find support on both markets. There will be an opportunity to get long. But right now, you'd be guessing. You'd be gambling. You'd be wishing and hoping it'll work. And that's not a good system over, 10 trades, 20 trades, 30 trades to just guess and wish and hope. Giving up on, because I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, Charles, if it's going to go higher today, wouldn't I rather get long right now here than get long up here? I mean, look at that. I'll make an extra, 10 points of profit, right? Actually more than that, because this is the Q, 40 points of profit. I'll make a lot more profit if I get in down here rather than up here. But the probability of the trade working is a giant fucking question mark right now. Whereas if you wait for that confirmation, it's a very, very high probability it's going to keep going, because you have both the support above the overnight high, which is a sign of new buyers, and the breakout of balance, which balance leads to excess. So now you've got all the votes in favor of a huge move higher. Why not just wait and get in there rather than try to force it right now when we're in a chop zone, when no one knows what comes next, because we're still playing tug of war to figure out who's going to win, buyers or sellers? Does that make sense? Patience, guys. Just because the market is moving doesn't mean you have to be in a trade. You shouldn't even be thinking about a trade until you know what the market's doing. You have confidence. Speaking of which, we're testing that high from yesterday on the ES. Let's see what happens. Does it just look above and fail? Or can we start to bring in new buyers up here? Can we get volume? Can we spend some time? Or do we just go boop and then pull right back down? Wouldn't want to get long right now if it goes boop and pulls right back down, would we? Rather wait for more information. Okay, so now we're looking at the volume profile and we're seeing, does it just taper off? Do we just get less and less volume? Or can we start to stay up here and get some big fat candles up here that look like that? Okay, so this is not momentum, right? This is short covering. We did get to the overnight high, but we still haven't brought in new buyers up here. Still have not received confirmation. But Charles, I'm so desperate to be long. The market's going up and I'm not in a trade and I'm so frustrated. Well, take a chill pill. There'll be plenty of opportunities. Let's just wait for some confirmation. Okay, so now that we're back to test the yesterday's high for support, let's take a look at what's happening with the ticks. They are holding for now. Okay, so we are spending time. We are bringing in volume. That's bullish to see. Now we want to see them hold yesterday's high, Friday's high for support, around 46.16. can. They hold it. Moment of truth. It's now or never. Will the bulls step in? Will they take the market to new highs again? That's bullish. They're holding it. How do I know? Look at that volume. Since we pushed up here, we've spent the whole time up here. We're bringing in volume and we're holding the ticks. All of those increase the odds that they're going to hold this high from yesterday, which is bullish to see. Ooh, and it was an iceberg at the high. So I would remain bullish at this point as long as the market remains above the opening price. We got the signal we were looking for. So now it's just a matter of coming on back through. Hard to know exactly where they'll hold it, but as long as they're above that opening price, it'll be more buyers stepping in and more buyers stepping in and more buyers. And we know what happens when that takes place. The market goes higher. David says not NQ. Well, I'm talking about the ES. Yeah, NQ is still just in the chop zone. So again, since we got above the overnight high, or sorry, Friday's high, what has been happening? We've stayed up here. We've spent time up here, and we've brought in volume. That's a sign of new buyers stepping in, trying to take the market higher. Scooball, why did I take away the banners? Just for the Bookmap stream, because I have to stream to their Discord as well. And so I had to shrink my monitor down to do it. And so it's like too much clicking around. But they'll be back up during the Brigade stream. Speaking of which, if anybody is new, and this is the first time they've ever heard me, I do this every day for the first hour. It only costs $10 to join the Brigade, and then you get access to those live streams every day. So you may consider that if you're enjoying this. It's $10. Less than a tick. Less than one single tick on the ES. Charles, the market pulled down below yesterday's high. Are you bearish? No, I'm not. I've already seen what I wanted to see. Now all I have to see is the market hold above that opening price, and I remain bullish. There's nothing that these bots love to do more than to get everyone long and then wipe them out and then turn around and head the market higher. So as long as my thesis is still correct, I remain bullish. No reason to lose confidence. All right, moment of truth, right or wrong? About to find out. Can they hold it? They're dancing right on the devil's door. Oh, didn't work. Sorry, guys. All right. Well, that is less bullish to see, right? That is a look above and fail of yesterday's high. So that now means we're back in a chop zone. We're back to that two-sided trade and the market going sideways. So now we're back to looking for support to take another poke at it. Should we be bearish? No, absolutely not. What did we say at the start of the day? Highest probability, sideways, or higher. Couldn't go higher yet. Didn't quite have the buyers. So we may have to go sideways for a bit. But it's only bearish if we start to break those overnight lows. So Bookmap is telling us what just happened there, right at that opening price. They put in the liquidity to make the market think there was going to be buyers, there was going to be support. But then right when the market got to it, got rid of it, took out those stops. But looky what's still up at the high. Didn't even fully backfill that low volume node. Sign of more chop. Well, I hate to say it, this is the absolute worst point to finish the live stream. Because it's 50-50 right now. Yeah, I'm still neutral to bullish on the day. So I still think the higher probability is we either go sideways or we go higher. But there is potential that they could start to build momentum down and break those lows. So if you want a simple number, 4,600. If you're able to think a little more complex than that, the overnight low, that's really where you want to get bearish down there. So if they push below 6,400, look for sellers to take you down to the overnight low at 45.94. And then if they get below that and they get new sellers, get very, very bearish for a look above and fail of the balance area, which could turn out exactly like it did on Thursday, right? As soon as we looked above and failed here, we head straight down to the opposite end. Now, I don't think we would go all day in a straight line like we did there. It would probably be a slow grind down. But if you start to get sellers down here, that's where they're going, to that balance area low. But anything short of seeing that, I still think we're going sideways or even higher today. And that this is all just a game to squeeze as many traders as they can first before they do it. So I describe myself as neutral to slightly bullish. Unfortunately, that's all I got for you here on the Bookmap channel. If you're a member of the brigade, head on over to the private stream. If you aren't a member and you want to join, just head to Piratetraders.io and you'll see the link there. And if you're not a member of the brigade and you're not interested, head on over and watch Bruce's stream right here on the Bookmap channel. Thank you guys very much, and we will see you here next Monday morning.